Hello everyone and welcome back to my final video of 2019. This will be my best movies of 2019 video with 15 movies. I tried to do a top 10 list. I just couldn't. This year has been a great, honestly, an excellent year for movies. One of the best years for movies in recent years. It is incredible. I had a very hard time narrowing it down to 15. And I honestly think there's 20 just incredible movies that came out this year, but I had to narrow it down to as small as I could. So I settled on 15. And honestly, I had 30 movies that were in contention in total. But here are my top 15. Let's just start off with a couple of honorable mentions right off the bat. Alright, so honorable mentions. The Nightingale is technically a 2018 festival movie, but it came out in 2019. And if you have not seen The Nightingale, I think it's on Hulu. It is incredible. It is the director of The Babadook, and I think it's probably better than The Babadook. And it is a great revenge tale that has a lot of emotion, a lot of just... The first 30 minutes is pure just anger when you're watching it. It's so difficult to watch the beginning of this movie, but it becomes so worth it by the end of it because it's such a satisfying ending in ways that you wouldn't think. And the Nightingale, the lead of this movie, did an incredible job. I thought she is an excellent actress. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but she is an actress to look out for. Dolomite Is My Name is the Eddie Murphy comeback we've all been wanting. It's pretty much a better version of The Disaster Artist with James Franco and about the room. This is about Dolomite, and it is a fantastic, hilarious movie that didn't have as high as stakes as I wanted it to, but besides that, it is an incredibly entertaining movie, and it is a slam dunk for Netflix. And then I had Little Monsters, which was on my top 15 list for so long, and it just recently got knocked out by two movies I just saw yesterday. But Little Monsters was incredible. Lupita Nyong'o giving just yet another great performance this year, and just one of the most fun and entertaining movies I saw that reminded me a lot of Shaun of the Dead. And Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's incredible that this movie did not make my list. And finally, Toy Story 4. Toy Story 3 is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's a movie that gets me so emotional every time I watch it just because of the score. And Toy Story 4 did not really need to happen, but the fact that it did happen and the fact that it was as good as it was is a reason why I had it on my list. And this was actually the most recent movie to get knocked off. It was 15 for a while, but now it's number 16. So that sucks for Toy Story 4, but let's get into the actual list, starting with number 15. The Shining is my favorite horror movie of all time. I love The Shining. Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, directed by Stanley Kubrick. That movie's incredible. And with Mike Flanagan, who is my favorite horror director working today, with things like Haunting of Hill House and Oculus and all these different movies that he's done, he was the perfect choice for Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep is my number 15. I loved this movie. I think the ending, the last 30 minutes, is probably the most problematic, although on second watch it did work a little bit better. But when this movie was being original and weird and just as Stephen King as you can possibly get with these, I guess, shining vampire creature things that are just awesome. And Rebecca Ferguson is incredible. Ewan McGregor is also incredible. And the young actress who plays Abra was fantastic. I really did love this movie. Number 14 is The Lighthouse, which Robert Pattinson and especially Willem Dafoe give some incredible performances in this really weird and bizarre movie directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch. And yet again, like The Babadook, this is a great follow-up to an original horror movie that came out either last year or 2 years ago, and it's incredible. I can't really tell you what it's about. It's a very strange and odd movie, but I couldn't shake the feeling after walking out of this movie just, constantly thinking about it for about a week or two afterwards and just being amazed by how bizarre this movie is and how thematic it is and all these different meanings. I came up with my own meanings of the ending, and I saw a bunch of different videos and different articles about the ending, and my idea was nothing like any of those ideas. It's a movie that can be interpreted in so many different ways, and I just can't shake the feeling that walking out of the theater for The Lighthouse, it was a cinematic experience that I had not had in any other movie that came out this year. Number 13 is Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which stuck with me a lot more than I thought it would. The first time I saw it, it's very slow and deliberately paced. But you're just watching these two characters, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, kind of live their lives for a day or two. And it's such a good and entertaining and really funny movie that just really stuck with me. And I'm going to buy this movie on 4K because I really enjoyed it that much. And I do want to see the extended cuts. And this movie's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I will easily take another 15 or so minutes for this movie. And Brad Pitt gives what I thought was the best performance of the year before I saw Christian Bale and before I saw one other person or two other people on this movie. This year has been so good with performances. It's kind of insane. But Brad Pitt giving his probably best performance of this year, maybe. And that's because number 12 is Ad Astra, which Brad Pitt yet again delivers an incredible performance. But what really surprised me about this movie is, I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is my second favorite genre underneath horror. And when you have horror sci-fi like Alien, that's my favorite. But this movie is kind of a sci-fi space movie that did stuff that I never thought I would see in a space movie. And I'm going to give slight spoilers for the movies going on this from here on out. So there's going to be slight spoilers. So if you have not seen Ad Astra, I highly recommend it. But it asks the question, are we alone in the universe? And it answers that question by saying no. Or no, by saying yes, we are alone in the universe. Like, no, there's nothing else out there, and we are all we got. And we gotta we can't just ignore the things outside of us and keep on looking outward, and we got to accept and kind of appreciate the things that we have, like family and like all these different things. And it's a great character piece that just fascinated me, and it answered those questions that sci-fi movies have asked in so many years, and answered it in a way that I never thought they would. And it was completely surprising. It was a very fun experience, and this is also a movie I'm easily going to buy on 4K. It just came out. I'm going to go to Best Buy probably in the next few days, and I go pick that up. Number 11 is a movie I saw last night. It is the most recent addition to this list, and that is The Farewell, directed by Lulu Wang, starring Awkwafina. And this movie just crushed me. It is so emotionally, like, I don't want to say draining, because it's a very fun movie as well. Like, it has some really funny moments. Awkwafina is a great comedic actress, but she has range. Like, people kind of compared her in Crazy Rich Asians to Kate McKinnon, how she always does, faces and kooky, weird characters and stuff like that. And this movie really shows that she has much more range than Kate McKinnon. Awkwafina can do dramatic roles, and she isn't just, a fun comedic actor. She is excellent in this movie. One of the best performances I've seen this year. And like I said, I was bawling by the end of this movie because it's so sad. And I was thinking about my own grandma. If you guys don't know what this movie is about, it's basically, her grandmother has cancer, and they don't want to tell her because in Chinese culture, some families like to just make sure that they live their last months of living and just not realizing that they're about to die, and kind of like it's the fear of cancer that kills people, or at least they believe that. And the way this movie ends is excellent. I loved this movie. It really hit me hard. And what really surprised me, which I wasn't really expecting from this movie, is the cultural clashes in this movie, because Lulu Wang, who is the director of this movie, is kind of a true story based on her own experiences. And she moved to America when she was super young, so she grew up with Chinese culture, but she really was living in America for most of her life. Even her parents had 50% Chinese, 50% American in terms of how long they were living in each place at the time of this movie. And the culture, in America, this will never go past. It's illegal not to tell somebody that they're sick or that they're dying. That's a thing. And it's kind of that clash of, should we tell her? Should we not tell her? Should we follow the Chinese culture, or should we just, go with our American culture? And the clashes of culture, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. I was really taken aback by this one, and it really surprised me. Number 10 is a movie I saw earlier in this year that really stuck with me, and the one that I actually bought on iTunes because I loved it so much. Something that was extremely unique for what it was, and that is Rocketman. Bohemian Rhapsody, that came out last year, I thought was okay. I don't think it should have been nominated for Best Picture, and I don't think it should have been nominated for Best Editing. That was insane. But Rocketman is a musical that is just excellent. The way that it weaves Elton John's music and kind of has that tell the life story of Elton John it's a unique take on this story that only Elton John deserves. He is such a eccentric and bright and flamboyant person that he deserves a movie like this, and it works so well. And Taron Egerton gives his best performance of all time. This is his best performance of his career, and I would be shocked if he tops it. But I love him as Eggsy in the Kingsman movies, but this was his best role. I loved this movie. Number 9 is also a movie that I did not do a review for because I just watched it yesterday. That's right, a movie I watched yesterday is my number 9 of the year. That is Uncut Gems, starring Adam Sandler, directed by the Safdie brothers, or written and directed by the Safdie brothers. And this movie was so unbelievably stressful. I have never felt like this watching a movie before, which honestly, this might be the best movie of the year, but this list is kind of my own personal takes and movies that I'm going to watch more and more over and over again, and I can't really see myself watching this movie too often, although I do want to see it again because it was so excellent. Adam Sandler was so great in it, and I really hope this movie gets award recognition for Adam Sandler and for the directing and for just Best Picture. But this movie really did blow me away, and Adam Sandler was excellent in the movie, and it's just, man, I was so stressed. You have never been as stressed until you've seen this movie. It is a theater experience, and there's some people sitting next to me, or it's really the entire crowd that I was seeing the movie with. At one point towards the end of the movie, we all gasped and screamed at something that happens, and it was a theater experience, a community experience with all these people that I really did enjoy, and it was one of the more interesting movies I've seen all year. Number 8 is a movie that I missed in theaters, but I so wish I did. I rented it on Redbox. It is just a delightful movie. It is The Peanut Butter Falcon, starring Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson, and this kid Zach. He has this dream of becoming an actor, and I've seen interviews with him or interviews with the directors, and this movie is kind of sort of based on him, but in the movie he wants to be a wrestler and he kind of travels. It's like a road trip movie with Shia LaBeouf, and he is also great in the movie. Same thing with Zach. He's great in this movie. This movie was just a light-hearted, fun, entertaining, and just hilarious take on this road trip movie with this kid, and it was delightful. I loved every second of this movie. I can't think of a single negative part. This is where we get into these movies. Everything from here on out are just excellent films that I do think should get awards recognition. Like if the top 10 best picture movies were these 10 that I'm going to give here, I haven't seen a few of the movies. I haven't seen Parasites, or I have not seen 1917. Those two are probably going to be nominated. I would love if The Peanut Butter Falcon got nominated for best picture, because it is just such an entertaining and fun and just lovely movie. I loved watching this entire movie from beginning to end. It was something else. Number 7 might just be the best movie of the year. It is emotionally draining, unlike Farewell, that had, those comedic moments. This one has comedic moments as well, but it is crushing. It is Marriage Story, starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. And, they make a joke at the beginning of the movie, like, oh, I cried 4 times watching this movie. I cried 5 times watching this movie, because it is so powerful. And, I am fortunate enough not to have my parents still together, no divorce in my family, which is incredible. Like, I'm so grateful for that. But watching this story, I can't imagine, being a child of divorce, watching this movie, because it really is taking a divorce, taking a step back, and looking at the legal side of things, and the emotional side, and the character sides of things. And it is just, Adam Driver, I'll say this, gives the best performance of the year. This guy will win the Oscar. I'm calling it now. Joaquin Phoenix has gotten nothing on Adam Driver in Marriage Story. I love this movie. It is also another movie that is lower on my list. This would be closer to my top 3 if it wasn't so emotionally draining, and I would be able to watch it more often, because like I said, this is my personal list of favorites. It's not necessarily the best movies of the year list, even though it's titled best movies of the year. This is one of the best movies of the year, no doubt. I love this movie, and it's just, man, Marriage Story, check it out on Netflix. It is just fantastic. Number 6 is Jordan Peele's Us, which, like I said, also, this is beginning of the year. I think it came out either February or March, and this movie stuck with me. I bought it immediately, because it is like Get Out. It is a movie that just, on second watch, you pick all these different things, and Jordan Peele is such a horror genius, and his writing and his directing is so excellent. And Lupita Nyong'o gives, I think, another one of the best performances of the entire year. Her playing, Adelaide and Red, the two sides of the coin, and it was just excellent. I love the twist at the end, and it's just it's more of a standard horror movie than Get Out. I think Get Out is probably the better movie, but Us was a theater experience. It's a horror experience. It's like, it kind of plays tropes on the classic slasher film by also being a post-apocalyptic, like, horror. It was a lot bigger scale than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be trapped in a house, and you see that it branches out into the entire United States and the different cultural meanings it has with class and with race and all these things. It was just an excellent take on the horror genre, yet again by Jordan Peele. I don't know. I think he's one of the most, influential horror directors out right now. Go check out Us if you've not already seen it. It is excellent. Here we go. We have reached our top 5 with Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit, also starring Scarlett Johansson, and the kid Roman Griffith Davis, I think is his name. He was excellent. He got nominated for a Golden Globe for his performance, because this movie is fantastic. I think this is probably my favorite Scarlett Johansson performance of the year, even though she has had 3 excellent movies that came out this year, all 3 of which are actually on this list. Spoiler for a little bit later on. But I love this movie. It was very, very funny, while also having an emotional punch that, I think a little bit of me was expecting that, but it hit so hard. And you guys, if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the shoes. I don't want to give too much away with this one. I won't spoil too much, but it is very funny. I think Taika Waititi playing this imaginary version of Hitler was a very bold choice, and this movie is very bold, and it might just be my favorite Disney movie of all time, considering now it's Fox Searchlight and that Disney bought Fox. This came out in the Disney regime. I love this movie. Go check out Jojo Rabbit. I do think it's a movie that should be shown in schools, because it is very influential on just this time, and it's a very different war movie, because it's not really a war movie. It's a movie about a Jewish kid who is not a Jewish kid, about basically a Nazi. He's growing up in this culture. He's growing up with these things, and if you grow up in a world that's like this, where everything is surrounding you, that is pointing you towards one direction, but you have this kid who meets this Jewish girl and has this revelation and realizes what he's growing up in is terrible. It is such a sweet and heartwarming story that, like I said, has an emotional punch, and this movie was just excellent. Now we reach number 4, which is a movie that I thought had the best performance of the year besides Adam Driver. I think until Adam Driver and Marriage Story came out, I thought this was easily the shoe-in for Best Actor. But I think Joaquin Phoenix gives an excellent performance as the Joker in Joker, and this movie was, I was really looking forward to this. This was one of my most anticipated movies of this year. You guys can go back and check out my top 10 most anticipated movies that I released back in January 1st. I think I uploaded that video, which I will be doing another anticipated for 2020. But Joker, with walking into this movie with such sky-high expectations, with this movie actually surpassing most of those expectations, and this movie being a really dark and different look at this Joker character, instead of the agent of chaos, it's this guy who's been beaten down by life and by his society that he's living in. Yes, his society, he grows up in a society, this is the world that we live in, and it was just excellent from beginning to end. I loved Joker. I will buy this on 4K. It comes out, I think, next week. I cannot wait to own this movie. And he rivals Heath Ledger as the Joker for me. It's very different takes. He's almost the complete opposite of Heath Ledger in terms of this Joker character, but he's still very much the Joker, and I love this movie. All right, we're getting to the nitty gritty. Number 3 is Booksmart, directed by Olivia Wilde, and this movie, a lot of people said it was the Superbad is the female version of Superbad, and I think that's a disservice to this movie, because this movie is so much more than that. It is a great story about friendship, first and foremost. I thought it does a great job in terms of that, but it has so many different funny moments, and just the relationship that we have between these two women are fantastic, and the story that it goes through of them just trying to get to this party, and them, they haven't partied all school year at all. They were only studying, but the kids who were partying and studying, they also got into good colleges, and this story, I think Olivia Wilde does an excellent job in her directorial debut. I thought this movie was fantastic. It should get all the accolades that it's getting. I love this movie. It is one that I will revisit all the time because it's so funny, because it's such a heartwarming story, and by the end of it, you do get emotionally attached to these characters, and when they have to split up, it is crushing. But the final moments of this movie where I forgot the actress name, but where she comes up back in front of the car, it's such a sweet moment. I love this movie from beginning to end. It is my number 3 of the year easily. All right, if you take my personal biases out from my number 1, this number 2 movie of the year might just be the best movie I've seen all year. It is Knives Out. I have the poster up here for a reason, because I absolutely loved Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson, starring a whole bunch of people, but really starring Ana de Armas in her breakout role, and I really hope this is her breakout role. She was in Blade Runner 2049, and she's going to be in 007, No Time to Die next year, which I cannot wait for that because she's in it. She was excellent in this movie, along with Daniel Craig, who has this crazy accent. It's such a fun and hilarious whodunit movie, of which I've never really seen before. And there's a twist about 30 minutes into this movie that I will not spoil, because it is so shocking. And it's only 30 minutes in, and the entire movie after that is completely different than you think it would be. It goes from a murder mystery to something else entirely that still is in the vein of the whodunits from the past, and it is excellent. I loved this movie. I want to see it over and over again. This is a movie, Rian Johnson just, tweeted out his movie theater commentary, and I think I'm going to go see this movie one more time before it's out of theaters. I'm going to watch it with his commentary that you can download. I'll put a link below, but I love this movie. I thought Rian Johnson has such a smart and witty script that never cheats. On second watch, you see how things wrap up at the end of this movie, and it really does feel like character decisions or motivations that's happening throughout the movie really does change naturally instead of it feeling scripted. And I think that's the part that surprised me most about this movie, especially on second watch, is the fact that it does not cheat at all, and it is just a genuinely smart and clever movie that I was really taken aback by. And here we are, we have reached the number 1 movie of 2019, and of course it's Avengers Endgame for me. This is my personal list we're talking about. I have grown up with the MCU. I've seen every single movie in theaters from Iron Man to Avengers Endgame, and I had so high expectations for this movie, and I walked into thinking there's no way it surpasses any of these thoughts I have already built up in my head, and surprisingly, it surpassed all of them. This movie should not have worked in any way, yet it is such an emotionally gratifying ending and satisfying ending to the MCU as, this series finale, or I guess a season finale, since they're going to keep on going after this. But you could stop here and be completely satisfied with everything that happens in this movie. Seeing Robert Downey Jr. exit as Iron Man, his Iron Man moments at the very end of the movie is very emotional and we've been on this 10, 11-year journey with this guy as this character, and it really revitalized his career and his life, really, because if you know the story of Robert Downey Jr., how he was, he was arrested for drugs, and he had all these problems before he was cast in the role of Iron Man, and Jon Favreau really pushed for him, and it was so worth it because we got this 11-year journey with this character, and also with Steve Rogers, with Chris Evans, who was also in Knives Out. He was excellent in that movie as well. But we also got a great send off for him and Scarlett Johansson, and yet another excellent performance that she had this year. I loved Avengers Endgame more than I can even express. Every time I watch this movie, it's just, yes, it's 3 hours long, but it flies by. It has so much nostalgia and so much fan service without being irritating and overbearing. It has so much. It actually has story, character arcs, and it has a cohesive. Not to say Infinity War wasn't cohesive, but it's very much we're going from one place to the next, and we're going bouncing between all these characters. Whereas this movie feels very cohesive and natural, and feels like an actual movie that's well made. Or not that Infinity War is well made, but I don't know. This movie just blew me out of the water. I thought Infinity War was the best it could get, but no. Avengers Endgame has one of the best finales of any movie of all time. This might be the movie of the decade for me. I loved Avengers Endgame, and that is my top 10 or top 15 movies of 2019. It was very hard putting together this list. Things might move around and change, especially after I see 1917 next week, but that is how it's at right now. That is all the movies I saw. I also never saw Parasite, which is very sad. I really wish I saw that movie considering it's on everybody's top 10 list. But, this is what I got. So thanks, guys, for watching the best movies of 2019, and I really hope 2020 has just as much to offer. This has been an excellent year, so there's no way 2020 is going to surpass this. If I do a top 20 movies of 2020 next year, that'll be a lot of 20s, and that will be great. But this year has been excellent. Thanks, guys, for watching my channel and sticking with me for this entire year. I have been consistent for over a year now because I think I really started trying to be consistent. I think Venom was the first review. So back in October of 2018 was when I really started being consistent with my YouTube channel. And now I've reached this point. We've reached the end of 2019. I've gained a lot of subscribers since then. So thanks, guys, for joining on my channel. Subscribe if you guys are new. If you guys enjoyed my list, comment below your list of your top movies of 2019. Either put a top 10, or if you want to extend it like I did, go for it. We're not judging anybody's list. My light just went out. I think that's a sign for me to leave. So thanks, guys, and I hope to see you all in my next video.